Yes, you're welcome, viewers, to the next episode on Galaxy TV with motivation by Ahebwa Samuel, author, entrepreneur, and research consultant, business consultant, and management consultant. Today, we are discussing on the topic how education starts up someone for productivity and success. And as we discussed earlier, education comes from the French word eduquer, which is a meaning for cultivation or farming. In the real sense, education is a science. And so education can be used as a tool which can be used for human capital development, that's number one, and also it can be used for institutional development because institutions hire people for work, employment, and also to increase services or productivity in any sectors of the economy. One of the first points in this discussion is education as an inertial guidance system towards productivity and success. An inertial guidance system is a metallic part in an aircraft or an aeroplane, which guides the aircraft engineers and pilots on the state of an aircraft, or it senses the atmosphere in which an aircraft is flying in the air. So an inertial guidance system advises the pilots on where the airplane is supposed to go and where it's not supposed to go when it is up in the sky. So this means that the airplane and the airplane staff must listen to the information or updates from the inertial guidance system for them to fly safely. And when the inertial guidance system tells them not to continue anyway the direction of where they are going, it could even lead them to a decision making which leads them to actually land on the nearest or to the nearest airport, and they have to communicate. So it leads to right decision making for the airplane staff and mainly the pilot. So it can determine where the airplane is supposed to be taken. Now, education as a tool for guiding a person, it guides us on where to put our skills, on where to put our brains, on where we can use and apply our energies in order to increase success. In the success, we mean the creation of services and products for any institution, whether self-employed or employed in an institution. We need to have true education in order to have the right inertial guidance system in our lives. One of the examples I can give you is phototropism. In science in primary, we learned phototropism. Phototropism is a state of or a process in which a plant grows towards light. Now, that experiment was done by our science teacher in primary. They put a box and they put a young plant, a seedling, in a dark box. And after, they put a hole in one of the corners so that they show us the power of phototropism, or what it means by phototropism. And so in 1 week, the plant started growing towards or bending towards that flicker of light in the dark box. And that is the process of phototropism. It is the other desire for survival, the other desire for light that makes a plant, even in the midst of darkness, a dark box, it gravitates towards that little flicker of light. In other words, like the inertial guidance system in a plant is the power of direction towards light even when there is darkness. A true education guides us to see those little opportunities that we have to change our lives. A person who is truly educated cannot be idle. That's number one. A person who is truly educated cannot lack options for success even when they fail. So this is the way you can prove that either you are uneducated or poorly educated or not educated at all. What attracts you to spend time doing a certain work, a certain activity, or what attracts you to choose a certain hobby? It will prove your level of education or your state of education. And so you can prove that you are uneducated by the things, by the tastes and preferences you have in life. And so if we want productivity, you have got to see what is inside, that inertial guidance. Where is it taking you? So the things that actually attract us most in life are not outside. They are coming from inside. And so in most cases, we just think that maybe life does us bad, to experience failure and all the misfortunes that we suffer, losses and whatever. But as in phototropism, a plant that is in darkness, in a dark box, doesn't look at the darkness. It actually only looks for that flicker of light, that little opening. You only need that flicker of light, that opening, for you to gravitate towards it. Now, that is how education leads us to productivity. So, the next point is simple-mindedness. Simple-mindedness is a sign of a lack of education. Simple-mindedness actually is a distraction which often leads very many to not understand why they are in certain activities or why they are doing certain things or why they are not doing certain things. So we always look for the reasons for unemployment. What is the reason? Why are we unemployed? The problem is simple-mindedness. Now, simple-mindedness is the inability of someone to act towards that which they believe in. You believe you can be a millionaire. You can believe, yes, you can be a philosopher. You believe you can become the best employee in an organization. You believe you can be the best you think you can be, whether in sports or in the sciences or in any dealing that we engage ourselves to, or whatever you really desire to have in life. But the problem is simple-mindedness. Now, simple-mindedness, that inability for us, that lack of courage to follow up on what we believe or what we have faith in, is what keeps us down. It's what keeps us idle and actually keeps us unemployed. So, simple-mindedness is a sign as well as it is also a barrier. Just like an HIV patient, an HIV/AIDS victim, when they develop signs of HIV, it always stigmatizes them. The signs actually can derail you, and you start focusing on the disease. So, what is the problem of education today? We are focusing on our lack of practice or lack of practicing what we know. The issue is that it's not that we are receiving wrong information in our schools, right, from primary to high school or vocational schools. No. The problem is we are not applying the knowledge. And so we spend 20 years seated in school. Why? We are just waiting for the period of primary to lapse, and we get a PLO certificate. We are waiting for USCE 4 years, and we get a PLO certificate. The certificate is not supposed to be part of our goal in education. No way. Just like when you get employed, money is not supposed to be the end or the goal. And that's why very many people have to wait for retirement to start businesses. Why do you have to wait for retirement to start a business? You can start it even when you don't have employment. You can start it even when you are employed. The problem is simple-mindedness, the lack of courage to do something. Now, the other example of simple-mindedness, as the Bible says, the Proverbs in the Bible, that a prudent man sees danger and hides. A simple-minded person sees danger and goes into it. In any way, I will say a prudent person sees an opportunity and goes for it, just like the plant which gravitates towards that little flicker of light. Instead of crying for more light, the plant just uses that little light to break through that small hole. And it continues growing out of the box. And that is what we need to always learn. Practicing knowledge does not need you to wait for a period or a certain kind of acceptance from people. A truly educated person does not need a certificate of education or a certificate of any kind of achievement. You don't need an award as a best employer for you to become the best employer. That's why in management we talk about firing your boss. It is not about fighting your boss. The issue is you can be even better than your boss. But how? You need to be courageous enough to apply that which you know. And in any way, if an organization in which you are employed or whatever you're doing, people don't believe in you, you go outside there and apply it. And that is the secret of applying knowledge and beating simple-mindedness. Now, next is the problem of education. What types of education do we need? Today, currently, there is adult education, which is very important to cover up for those people who have experienced school dropouts, who have not been able to have the opportunity of going in school. Then there is business education, there is entrepreneurial education, just as you're listening or viewing this motivation series. It's also education. You are researching. You buy a book, that is education. Then there is also social education. Now we are in a market-driven economy, just as we are in a knowledge-driven economy. You cannot sell any service or product. You cannot sell your skill or your talent unless you have social maturity. That is social education. Now, social education is practical knowledge which you get from the people you are with or the people who are around you. Just as Socrates said, smart people learn from everything and everyone. In society, what is the everything you learn from? In society, what are those things actually that inspires you? Actually, one of the signs of the powerlessness in Ugandan society is the statistic about the entrepreneurial level in Uganda. In around 2012, 2013, Uganda was put as one of the most, actually it was number 3, one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the world. Now, that is just a statistic. But that statistic itself tells you that Ugandans are not lazy, but they start up businesses. But this ability to start up business has also presented a trivia. The trivia is Uganda has the poorest ability to actually maintain businesses or grow businesses. It has the record of the highest business failures. 8 out of 10 businesses that start don't see their first year or first birthday. What is the problem? The problem is the lack of education. It means most Ugandans are misinformed, or they are not informed, or they don't understand even what they are doing when it comes to business, when it comes to employment. And that's why I told you, most people wait for after retirement. That's when they want to start businesses. They forget that even starting early, starting to fail early is one of the lessons that can teach you to actually be successful. So once you delay practicing, because through failure, you definitely learn. So Uganda shows the statistics about Uganda's entrepreneurial level or culture show us that Ugandans are actually simple-minded. That means in most cases, most of them don't do research about what they wish to do. That is why Erich Fromm, the German psychoanalyst, said a bigoted person actually lacks the understanding or insight into the psychic impulses that determine economic development in a market-driven society. And because he does not understand the psychic impulses to economic development, he feels that he cannot penetrate or he cannot beat competition and go to the top. And this is what renders him powerless. Now, Erich Fromm says, you need the right insight or a correct insight into the constellations and the forces which determine that which you want to do, so as it is the first condition for right action. So it means we go into business, or we go into ventures, or we go into careers, even before researching about them. As I talked about adult education, there is actually career education, there is a business education. All these things are needed for us to practicalize our ideas, or also correct the state of affairs of our society. In the current state of affairs where we lack jobs and we lack what, it means that we actually lack education, or we lack the right insight into the forces and nature that leads us to correct business ideas and also correcting the failures. Now, the next recommendation, actually the most of the powerful recommendation I give, is having a consultative culture. Consultative culture, actually in management, we talk about benchmarking. You can benchmark from your experiences, you can benchmark, you can learn from your failures, you can benchmark from your neighbor. We get to know how the other person is doing it right. Instead of competing, you've got to learn how they are doing it better. And now, in my books about poverty, that is why I delve into understanding the forces that actually are holding unproductivity and poverty in Uganda. And this is why I'm recommending you actually to get a copy of my books. All the editions actually address that powerlessness, and that is the right education to change society. Thank you for following me today. I hope you will be very grateful to change your life. That is how education can be used for productivity. Thank you. God bless you.